Now we got some things, some clips about Kevin O'Leary. He's trending on Twitter. What's going on with that?
Well, yeah, let's go on a more positive note, especially here in Canada. I mean, we just had Trudeau step down. We have the Liberal Party obviously trying to find someone to replace him. We have, other than Pierre, I haven't heard anyone else speaking up for Canadians until this week, luckily. So I'm kind of happy to see Kevin O'Leary trending. Now, I understand there are lots of people and politicians that are scared to give their opinions, but that fear needs to start going away. So fortunately, this week we have Kevin O'Leary, who's trending on X, giving his side of the story and proposing his opinion on what Canada's next steps should be. Now, if you like him or not, it's important to hear people out. And people like him seem to have good intentions, right? And obviously, you got to be careful if they have good intentions or not. That doesn't matter. It matters about what they're really supporting at the end of the day. So let's hear him out. Here's a clip of him sharing what he saw in his last meeting with Trump and the Premier of Alberta.
Is there anything you can tell us that came from that meeting?
Well, it's out in the public now. That was the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith. She is one of the most pragmatic politicians on earth. Her relationship with Trump is unique. Alberta, that province in Canada, has more oil and gas than all of America, and is in fact one of the largest trading partners on earth with the United States. $188 billion worth of energy flows from Alberta into the U.S. to the refineries. It's shipped all over the world afterwards, and even some of it comes back up to Canada. As she likes to put it, and I think she was really getting ahead of the narrative, very smart of her, to say, look, we're in a long-term marriage with the people of the United States. We're not dating, we're married. Sometimes couples have some problems. They get into a little tiff, but because they've been married forever, they work it out. And she's so far ahead of other Canadian politicians because she came down to Mar-a-Lago last night. I was lucky enough to join her. As she worked the room, she met many of the cabinet members. They're glad to see her. They know her well. She is a conservative. She's part of the red wave that's flowing through Canada right now, the conservative wave that kicked out Idiot King, Justin Trudeau. And he's gone, so what he said doesn't matter, and Trump understands that. And all those liberal politicians that went to see him, gone. I think it's a good outcome that she did. She's smart.
She is.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you can manage.
Okay. I don't really know
Right.
too much about her. I did see it. I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet where Pierre was, or I don't know if it was Pierre, but they were trashing her for that picture where it was her, Donald Trump, and Kevin O'Leary, and saying I forgot what it said, but they were like downplaying her for being with them. So yeah, I don't know much about her, but if what she said was great. Yeah, we're in a married relationship with the U.S. We're not dating. We got ups and downs, but we always have to find a way to, make it right.
Yeah. And I didn't know Alberta was rich with those resources, right? So all those points is good to know and should be talked about. Now, my issues is that there's a lot of people that are pessimistic when it comes to politics. And I understand, because there's a lot of devious promises, there's a lot of things that they go back on, and they think it's all an act. So I don't blame them on that front. But we can't like be writing everybody off, right? We got to listen to people, and right, that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast. Now, here's a clip of Kevin explaining a way we can improve our relationship with the states and actually providing some sort of solution, which I haven't really heard from any other politician. Maybe Pierre has spoken on it. I don't know if you guys have heard anything, but this is definitely something to hear and talk about. So let's take it in.
But a single currency.
Yes, well, that's just one idea. We start there, okay? Because I don't see any problem with that. There's no sovereignty issue. Nobody's selling anything to anybody, but we're joining many countries and many commodities are denominated by the US dollar. It's the most liquid currency on earth. Number two, tariffs. We don't want any tariffs. I don't want tariffs. Tariffs are a negotiating tool. I don't want tariffs north-south, but I don't want them east-west either. And that's one of the things that's frustrated the U.S. We want to sell our goods to people in Vermont, vice versa. I want to be able to buy wine from British Columbia and Ontario when I'm there. Can't do it. So all of these tariffs have to come down, and it becomes one giant union of free-flowing goods and services. Far more productive, way better. We'd be a behemoth economy. Behemoth. Nobody could compete with us, including China, who everybody in Canada should worry about. Third idea floating around, I've just nicknamed it the Uni, but you can call it anything you want. This may be where people thought it had something to do with the European Union, but basically any Canadian with a passport, Canadian citizen in good standing with his government, his or her government, or same in the U.S., a citizen with a U.S. passport in good standing, could apply for a Uni. Either government would have a veto right, so they both have to agree who gets these. Whoever gets a Uni, free access to any state or province at one tax rate, let's say 21%, no deductions. Free flow across you want with a Uni, but it's better than that. The Uni can be used to control immigration. Here's what we do in Canada. We invite a bunch of students to Waterloo for microrobotics, the most coveted degree on earth, and we throw half of them out of the country after they graduate. How stupid is that? They come in with a Uni. We do a background check. We make sure we're inviting them in, or people we want to have live in Canada, give them the Uni citizenship. They can create a company in Waterloo or anywhere else after they graduate. They don't have to leave with all that knowledge and all the money we spent giving them that knowledge. Same thing with MIT. The Uni controls who comes in.
Wow, that's a great point.
Right. So
Yeah, man.
whether you like him or not, he's making some reasonable points that I feel, most of us can get behind. Now, of course, he's mainly a businessman, and he might not be given a perfect solution, but at least he's speaking out for the country, right? And instead of complaining to the people around him, which most people do, he is actually attempting to make some sort of positive change, which I could respect. Now, in this next clip, you can see the response. His response wouldn't necessarily be considered politically correct, his response on the wildfires and what's happening in California. But as a businessman or average person in general, if this was your home and this is how your home country or your home in general was being run, it's a much more reasonable response than it seems, and it's needed, in my opinion, right? So let's play his opinion on that.
Seconds.
And Bass, I think every taxpayer in America, including those in California, would like to tie this aid to removing Newsom and Bass. Now, gone. Part of the deal would be, and I know Trump likes new ideas, here's one, not a dime until those two are whacked from their jobs immediately. They are so incompetent, and all of the decisions they've made led to this, and they're still making mistakes. They're horrific managers. Whack them.
Give me 30 seconds.
And Bass.
That's it, bro. Simple as that. Whack them. Like it doesn't have to be complicated.
Well, can you explain that video a little bit? I didn't really. What's he talking about there?
He's talking about the governor because now, right? All this shit happened with the wildfires, and there's an interview that I forgot to put up, but basically you have Gavin Newsom, and in the background you have all you have a few burning houses or whatever that are already burnt to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically asking him about the future, and it looks like he's got a heart on, he's got a smile on his face, and he's talking about the Olympics and the future and everything.
I did see that video, yes.
Right, and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy first of all, takes no accountability. He has no responsibility for what's been happening, even though realistically he does. And then now they're about to start asking for a bunch more money, about a bunch more donations. Even Beyonce I saw an article, Beyonce donated like 2.5 million to the cause, right?
Billion?
So
Million.
Oh,
2.5 million to the cause. No, you could pull up the article, but I'm sure they're going to get close to $1 billion with all these, donations and things coming through if they want to build some sort of
Mega city
2.0, right? Some sort of new city. And when in reality, they should be cut, and the fact that go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to give a little background on Newsom. So while he was governor during the 2020, he put one of the strongest lockdown measures and mandates, right? And then he was caught going to stadiums, like he had everybody masked up, social distancing, everybody on lockdown. And then he was caught going to Miami, if I'm not mistaken. You could correct me if I'm wrong there. But in one of the different states where things are kind of like, I think it was Florida. And he was caught going to these stadiums, these games, having a laugh, having a drink, enjoying his life while, once again, putting one of those pretty much scenarios where it's like rules for thee, but not for me. And I do agree with what's his name, with
Kevin.
O'Leary, right? O'Leary?
Yeah.
Yeah, with him, like, whack him. Whack him. Any of these guys, incompetent leaders who have the mindset of rules for thee, not for me type guys, whack them, get them out, because they will never understand or be able to, understand what the regular citizens is actually going through. If you can't put yourself in those people's shoes, that means you can never ever help them.
Yeah. And if you don't hold those type of people responsible, then you're going to get other leaders that aren't going to be afraid and they're just going to, do whatever they're told behind the scenes, fuck up the economy, make mistakes, and then there's going to be no repercussions. It's a problem.
Yeah, agreed.
Turn this guy to an
he's the
example.
guy that loves smart cities, this and that, and that's a whole debate too. Is a smart city a good thing, right? Like anything else could be used for a good thing and a bad thing. But when you already have a plan in place, pretty much after the homes are burnt down, it's like, okay, was this plan? And we're not going to dive back into this topic because we did a whole episode on it. But it's like, who are we really, like, who are these elected officials that we're putting in place to actually take control of our lives and make decisions for us? Is it people who can relate to what we do and what we want, or is it just people who are following an agenda and they're just putting things in place?
Yeah, that's the main thing, because you have people like Trump and Kevin speaking out, and then you have like regular people. I'm sure there's people that that have a huge problem with Trump, have a huge problem with Kevin. They dive into their personal lives, or they just don't like how arrogant they are. But at the end of the day, you got to put that emotion that you feel about their personality aside, and you got to realize, like, there's a difference between what they're saying, even though it might be harsh, even though it might not be a way that you agree. There's a difference between them actually stepping up and trying to make a positive difference, or at least change things in a place that needs to be changed, versus the other politicians that are continuing the narrative, that are being praised by the media. You got to pick up on these patterns. If not, we're just going to keep going in the same fucking cycle.
Yeah.
Facts.
Before we move on to the next topic, I do want to bring something up. It ties to the smart cities very quickly, not to like ramble on too much, but there is a thing called the 15-minute city. I don't know if it's the same thing as the smart cities, or if it's a parent or a partnership that they're doing, or they just renamed the smart cities nowadays. But the concept when they came out with the 15-minute cities is that within a 15-minute radius of the center of the city, everything is accessible to you, and you don't need to leave outside of this 15-minute radius that's in that city. And it was such a scary concept that they had, and they've implemented it in places like my country, Colombia, Bogota, that's the capital. It was actually a Colombian guy who came up with this idea, and he brought it to the major people, and they're implemented in different parts of the world. But it's a way to control population and concentrate them into places where you don't need to leave outside of 15 minutes of a radius of driving minutes, because you have everything. You don't need there's no need for you to leave here. You just stay in this little place, and that's all you ever need. And it reminds me of Hunger Games. You know how on Hunger Games, it's a apocalyptic future where like they have everything within different districts, and then the main district is the one that benefits off of the other 12, and the other 12 are just slave districts of the one district, to the point where they become entertainment for the first district. They grab two people from each district to come in and kill each other just for entertainment for these people. It's definitely like a scary future, and if that's what they're doing, if that's why California burned, if that's what they're trying to turn all these cities into, then people need to like do a lot of research on this, wake up and movement, protest. Like things need to start rolling nowadays, because they've started already. So we need to start as well.
So I just want to touch up on that a little bit. So I have a coworker, right? And I asked him, like, have you traveled outside of Canada? He has not. Have you traveled far east, west, north, whatever, out in within Canada? He's like, no. And I asked him, do you have any intentions of leaving Canada for vacation or whatever? No. So this guy's, I think, like a 45-year-old, and he has a kid, whatever. And he hasn't. And I'm telling you, he has zero interest of actually moving out. So would somebody like him benefit a 15-minute city? would there be a pro for him? I think so,
Oh,
right?
100%.
So some of these things, and this is where we could mix up conspiracies and theories with what is actually better for the overall, not only the population and the access that they have to get from one place to another and all that, but also close down the cities a little bit, give more space to to farmlands and nature, because people have absolutely destroyed the planet in a way. So I'm just trying to push back a little bit. I'm obviously just starting a point of talk, but we just have to keep in mind that some of these things could generally just be conspiracies and could potentially be a good thing. But once again, at all times these things need to be in check because power corrupts. That's the main point.
Yeah. And it's scary when you look at like all these like tech giants and billionaires buying farmlands, buying big pieces of land, and then just leaving like certain parts of areas where it's like cities, like the concentrated areas. Is like, even if you did want to go buy land outside, it's like, well, you can't because it's already all bought up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But all right, that was a great one.